rye whiskey, I cry. If you don't give me rye whiskey, I surely will die.
Templeton, Iowa's bootleg whiskey was made with ordinary ingredients: water, yeast, sugar, rye. But the ingredients in its story are far from ordinary. Immigrant pioneers who built a town on America's prairie frontier. A war in Europe against the German Empire that led to a war in America on liquor and beer. Pro-prohibition vigilantes who were equal parts bigots and buffoons. A priest who kept a whiskey still in his residence and another in the church basement. Pigs who ate whiskey mash as forage until they were falling down drunk. A young man who learned to bootleg out of poverty and then became Templeton's bootlegger king. And a federal prohibition agent who would hunt Templeton's bootleggers for decades. This was the recipe that made Templeton, Iowa, the rye whiskey bootlegging capital of America's heartland.
This is old school, cool as hell. This you have to know what you're doing. You can't just push a button on a computer. You know, like most people do in these big factories, which they all screw you. This is the real shit. So this is Lorraine Sextro's recipe from the 30s. They made 500 gallons a day. The height of production, it went to New York, Denver, Colorado, Chicago, Nebraska, Kansas City, and Iowa. And this was Al Capone's favorite.
But we will always be 15-gallon drum.
It's made exactly like she did 100 years ago, you know. Had one gentleman that wanted to buy this at one time and mass produce the white. And I told him, I won't do that because you take your grandma's recipe that you like the best for eating dinner and make that for 10,000 people. It won't taste the same, and I'm not going to do it. When you drink this whiskey, you're going home for Thanksgiving dinner. When you drink everything else, you're going through a fast food restaurant. I'll put it up against anything on purity, anything. There's not a whiskey on the market this pure, and there's nothing that'll mix this good. Hell, it's the best damn whiskey out there, and I challenge anybody. I'll run a taste test with anybody. I don't care who they are.
And everything is era-specific, and it will always be era-specific because we believe there's magic in that formula. And just try our product. You'll see, you'll feel the magic. You'll taste the magic. You'll come back for more magic. It's just like that.
This is an up-and-coming brand just because I've had one bottle from them and I fell in love with it, and Sean liked it too, and now we think it's like Dusty whiskey, and it just came out though.
Not a plug, but check out Blind Barrels. This is where we found this actually. And then Dan goes, I must own a bottle.
Yeah, I got a hold of Bobby
Reached out
over
to
there.
Bobby, and now owns a bottle.
Yeah, there's one here.
Yeah.
This is
Specifically this one.
ILR. Somebody posted a picture in our Discord the other day that they found these in like a store shelf. It wasn't this label, but it was the ILR company.
Yeah.
It is Iowa Legendary Rye. This is the gold label. This apparently comes out, I think, in March of 24, so very soon here. But this is a supposedly historically accurate recipe from like the 30s, I think.
Yeah, why don't you read that recipe?
This is a rye. It's 103 proof. Sean and I couldn't figure this out in the video.
Not at all.
If you would have said you will either die or figure out even remotely what this is, we would have both be dead right
Dead.
now.
Very dead.
The cool thing is this is batch number 2. They put on the front spirits distilled from rye grain and cane sugar. So it says ingredients: organic rye, cane sugar, purified water, yeast. Those are the only ingredients.
Sugar in there.
It genuinely tastes like dusty.
Yeah, it's wild.
Dusty bourbon or dusty whiskey, whatever you're. But it's like the most off the wall thing I think Sean and I probably had in a really long time. That was a brand new release.
100%.
Like Wave
And
Stave.
it was a label we've never even heard of.
Yeah, never heard of
yeah.
the brand, never heard of the distillery, the company. Neither of us have had their other offerings. I would definitely try them. because of the uniqueness and how incredibly cool this release is or was. So if I see another thing from this brand in the store, I would definitely pick one up. I would personally. I'm not telling you to, but if you see this gold label, you have to try this. You have to try the gold label.
Especially if you see it at a bar.
You have
Definitely
to.
try that.
I would be very happy to have a bottle of C for the uniqueness and the interest in like a different experience.
Lorene Sextro. They had 5 girls and 2 boys. And to save the farm and to feed their kids and clothe their kids, Lorene made the best rye that there was in the surrounding counties. My brother Chuck, she taught allegedly how to make it. And my brother Chuck allegedly taught me everything that she taught him. And remember, this is all allegedly because I wouldn't do anything illegal. So we're doing a lost art that hardly anybody does anymore or knows how to do. Her husband Frank, or well known as Shorty, wrote his name, and you know how old Germans wrote with the S backwards, wrote his name across, and the burn mark from the flute goes right through it. Well, that's where Lorene cooked the small batch, and that's still down there today at Augie's farm. Frank and his family were taking 15 barrels to the Manning Railroad to ship out to Chicago, and they got met halfway there, and they were told by their other family members that the feds were there waiting for them, so not to go or they're going to get arrested. So they came home and hid it on the farm, and we have sniffing dogs that were trained with our wood and our whiskey to find the alcohol, and that's how we found the still out at Augie's place. I mean, it's history in the making. 2 years ago, I had an aorta dissect with an aneurysm, and it blew, and I can't work. There's probably like 5 of us left that are still alive that know how to do this the old way. So I taught these guys everything I know, and I just come down, drink coffee and bullshit and tell stories. So Max is a master distiller, and he oversees the whole place, and Alec does all the mash, bottling, labeling, proofing. They are my proteges. They do they're learning, they're doing great, and that's going to keep this best tasting rye alive instead of letting it die out like a lot of the other great products have.
Like you said, there's only about 5 people that know the recipe, so teaching me and Alec is really special that we get to learn this, and someday we'll pass it on to somebody else, and it'll be something that lasts forever.
It's been a real honor being able to learn this recipe and figuring out all the steps there is to it, and it takes a lot to make sure everything is done correctly, and we do everything truly by hand, and no spirit out there puts more care and love into every single bottle than we do.
These guys make it just like she did. We get all the products from Carroll County except for the bottles and the barrels. It's done just the way they did 100 years ago. I'm not saying new technology is not awesome, because it is, but sometimes the old school stuff, you can't beat it. I mean, this is the real shit. This is done the way it was done, exactly the way Lorene made it, and it was famous. It went all over to Kansas City, Chicago, Illinois, Omaha, Iowa. There is no better. You know, I can't take credit for any of it. I just kept alive something that, allegedly, I kept alive something that there's no better than. This is the real shit. It's not fabricated, it's not made up stories. When you drank this back in the old days, it's exactly the way it tasted then. And that's what I'm proud of.